Starting a little, like a minute early because it didn't work last week, so just getting this going. And as soon as we get some people in here, I will be getting going here. Did you have a good week of Arena League games? It's amazing. Game of the week was kind of a stinker. The other two games were great, though. Let's see here. Hello there, visitor. What's up? Wait until we get one or two more people in here, and then I'll start it up and get going. All right, got a couple people in here, so let's get this show on the road. Welcome to those of you who are here. And let's start real quick before we get into the week's games. I just want to mention that I more than likely will not be able to do this next week as we're in transition with the house, and I won't have a computer available. Plus, we're heading somewhere. We won't get back till Tuesday afternoon next week, but I will still have everything up. The power rankings will still be up on Tuesday. I'll try to do a weekly update next week because of it, since I'll be missing this one. But either way, I'll try to get something out next week. But I just want to let you guys know now in case you come in here next week and I'm not here. But let's get right into it, shall we? Week 7, Arena League football. So, of course, we had two bye teams. Jacksonville Sharks and the LA Kiss were both on a bye week 7. But started on Friday. The Tampa Bay Storm traveled, a couple miles over there to Orlando to face the Preds. Of course, Predators won 42-40. And what most of us thought was going to be a bad matchup. Obviously, Orlando was coming off a dominating win against Arizona. They had dominated Tampa Bay earlier in the season. Tampa Bay was coming off. They had played the Monday night game, so they were on 3 days rest. I mean, it all chalked up. It was supposed to be a big blowout loss for Tampa. And then all of a sudden, about 5 minutes before kickoff, it was announced that Jason Boltis was back. And he was going to be starting for the Tampa Bay Storm, which ended up being amazing. Actually, you could see a huge difference between him and what Jonathan Bain was able to not do for Tampa Bay. But that definitely was a big shot in that game. I think if Bain was playing, it would have been another stinker that Tampa Bay has been putting up this year. But they were able to finally knock that monkey off their back of not scoring 30 points in a game. As with Boltis back, they were able to put up 27 in the first half alone and actually hold a lead there in the first half and at halftime. They went down. I think they let up the next few touchdowns against Orlando there in the third quarter. They were down by a few scores, but made it interesting at the end. Missed out on the 2-point conversion to tie the game. But either way, the fact that Tampa Bay was even in that game, like I said before, against Orlando, who was coming into this game 6-0, coming off that big victory against Arizona. But then on the other side of that is, how many times do you see a team have a big victory, they win 1 week, and then they come back the next week and they're just emotionally drained or physically drained from a big victory and they struggle. So I think that's kind of what happened there with Orlando, is I think that huge game against Arizona had seeped a lot of their energy out of them. And then, of course, with it being a rivalry game, you knew Tampa Bay was going to be up for that. So Tampa Bay took advantage and made it a game. It was awesome. It was nice to see a competitive 1-on-4 for the first time this season and actually have Tampa Bay be competitive against a good team. For both teams, Orlando is going to be in another game of the week this week. They're going on the road to face Philly. That's gonna be a fun one Saturday. AFL and CBS Sports did a perfect job of putting the best game of the week on their network for the last 3 weeks. But that's definitely going to be the biggest game. Orlando at Philly on Saturday. As far as Tampa, they're on the Univision game Monday night against Cleveland. So they have the chance at a first win there Monday night. Boltus was pretty damn accurate. Yeah, I mean, I could say Boltus was good and all that, but it was just the little things that make Boltus better than Jonathan Bain. It was ball placement. It was getting the ball out quickly. I mean, there was a lot of two-step and get the ball out. It wasn't many, let's sit back there and kind of run around, kind of like what Bain was doing, getting hit. And it was just impressive. It was great to see him back. Barnett, Tolliver had big games. Jason spread the ball around. Yeah, Barnett is I don't know how long he'll be in the league. He definitely has a lot of talent to make it at least into the CFL, if not a lower level NFL player. But it's great that while what's his face? There's another. What was the other Tampa Bay receiver that's out? He got hurt after week 1. Can't remember. But either way, Tampa's got some weapons, and I really think that they looked so bad because they just didn't have a quarterback. Now they got that quarterback. They're competitive against a good team, and I think they have a good shot at taking down Cleveland Monday night. Next game we got. It was on Saturday. First game. It was game of the week. Arizona-Philly, and even though the score ended up being close, 65-58. If you watch that game, Philly was in control pretty much the whole thing. Injuries for Arizona they haven't been able to really overcome those injuries. Kerry Reed, Arkeith Brown, those guys, they've struggled without them. It's 2 weeks in a row Arizona's lost for the first time since 2014 that they've lost 2 games in a row. Philly's just looking dominant. They look like the team that I had picked. I keep saying this, but they look like the team and why I had picked them to win the Arena Bowl at the beginning of the year. Rodball's finally playing well. He's still having that occasional bad pass where it's either picked or should have been picked, but Philly is definitely looking very impressive. No one can stop Darius Reynolds at this point. He's doing whatever he wants. He was on, he got the Sports Center top 10 on that one-handed catch. That was amazing. The defensive backfield is just ridiculous, picking off passes. They went into that game with, I think they had 13 interceptions going into that game. So, as far as the week together, they were all close games, which is great to see. But unfortunately, the game of the week ended up being the one that was pretty much decided late. I mean, Arizona, made it close there at the end, and it was never a blowout, but Philly definitely did enough to make it, where they had to control the whole game. I'm just looking at the stats here. I want to see where Philly was. Yeah, I mean, the quarterbacks both played ridiculous. Devil had 8 touchdowns. Rodball has 6 touchdowns. I mean, Darius Reynolds, 126 yards and 3 touchdowns. He can't be stopped. And without Arkeith Brown for Arizona, they just had a pretty young secondary. And they didn't have that guy in the middle with Kerry Reed. Chase Seatter just really struggles as a jack linebacker. If they're going to continue that project, I mean, it's nice to see. They pretty much keeping him on the defensive side. That way he can, I'm sure in practice, that's what he's focusing on mostly. He only saw offensive snaps there, I think, in the second half when Amos needed a break. So he isn't really a receiver much anymore. But they either need to upgrade that position or really, really get Chase Seatter up to speed because he looks lost out there. Let's see. Gregory, yeah. Julius Gregory, good call, Brian. Julius Gregory for Tampa was that other receiver I was talking about earlier. Rodaball's master of getting the most production out of least amount. I mean, that's also the coach. You know, it helps out a lot when your coach is also a prior quarterback. So Rodaball is able to go out there and play, and the guy calling the plays is a guy that's been right there right there playing the same position. So it definitely helps, and probably the reason why Rodaball is having such a good season and why he won the MVP last year. But yeah, that game, it's still a fun game. Arizona with those injuries, I think if those guys played, I think if Kerry Reed was there and have some kind of guy that knows what they were doing right there in the middle with Reynolds, would have been able to slow him down a little bit. If you noticed, a lot of the passes that Reynolds gets is those quick screens where he's getting the passes as soon as he passes the line of scrimmage. Those are the kind of plays that Reed would at least be able to break up or get the tackle on Reynolds right away. But unfortunately, Kerry's out, and like I said, Chase DeAdder struggled mightily. But that was the Saturday night game. Oh, as far as next week, Arizona hosts LA, so their 2-game gauntlet is over. You know, they get LA at home. They've dominated LA the last 2 years, so if they needed a team to be able to play during trying to get these guys back, it's good to see that they're going to get LA this week. As far as Philly, like I said before, Philly's in that game of the week against Orlando. So I can't wait for that game. Saturday night's going to be a blast. I got 3 games on Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. But going into the last game of the weekend, we had, let's see here. I mean, obviously it was just last night. It was Cleveland and Portland. So another one. This game was a lot like Friday night's game with Tampa Bay. We went into it. I put in my preview video, I thought Cleveland was going to blow them out. I thought they were finally going to get that game where they could just dominate during the game and hold a lead in the second half and just push the pedal down and dominate a team. But unfortunately, Cleveland likes to make it fun to watch. So that didn't happen last night. What a game! What a game last night. It was fun back and forth. It was Shane Austin's first game of the year. Of course, he comes back in the game against Cleveland. He started out ridiculously hot. I think he went 9 for 9 and a couple touchdowns to start off, but then the wheels kind of fell off for him, and he ended up throwing 4 interceptions, including the game clinching pick he threw there in overtime. But that's another team. With Portland, it was just like Tampa Bay. Having a quarterback actually made that team look a little bit better. That was only the second competitive game Portland's had this season. And I really don't think that it was all Shane Austin. You know, everyone playing for Shane Austin back in Cleveland. And that's why it was close because, like I said, after those first couple touchdowns, Austin actually looked pretty bad. You can't really blame. The first pick was just a great athletic play by the defensive lineman. The second pick was just a throwaway on 4th down. I mean, he's rolling left, and the play wasn't there, so he flicked it into the end zone. You can't really blame him for that one. But the next 2 were pretty bad, including the game, the end one in overtime. That was way too close. That pass needs to be up and over the defense. Obviously, where only the receiver can catch it. He threw it too short, and he was able, I think it was Ross, went over there and sealed the game for Cleveland. But either way, I mean, injuries for Portland last night. Wow. I mean, Gilson went down for a little bit. They lost Terrence Mitchell there early in the game. He had got that kick return for a touchdown and got hurt shortly after that. Perry went down. I mean, they had Christian Wise in there playing receiver, which he's normally a corner. So, I mean, with all those injuries and Shane Austin playing the way they were, or the way he was throwing those interceptions, there's no way that game should have been that close, especially for Cleveland. They come out, They beat Jacksonville the week before. We're thinking, hey, Cleveland's finally figured it out. They beat Jacksonville. They come back. This is the game. And then they still struggle. I mean, right after that game last night, as a little preview into the power rankings, I had asked, give me a reason why I shouldn't drop Cleveland at all. And I got nothing back. Not to say I have a ton of followers or anything, but I think the fact that no one said anything, I think that says a lot. I mean, Cleveland, I had put Cleveland above LA for the last couple weeks. A lot of people had LA above. But, I mean, that game was the game to say, okay, Cleveland's here. They can smack around a bad team and be that middle team and that four range of smacking around the bad teams and being competitive against the good teams. And they really should have lost that game. Had Gord not taken his helmet off with no time to go in regulation and forcing the extra point back 10 yards, then more than likely the kicker would have made that. He was perfect going into that kick. So more than likely Portland would have won in regulation by 1, and we'd be talking about Portland finally winning a game. But Cleveland, like I said, should not have been in a dogfight like that. That game should have been over. They had a good lead in the second half, and they let it slip. Portland made all the plays that they needed to. I mean, they had that last touchdown, I'm pretty sure was on 4th down. They had a pick 6 on that drive that was called back because of legal defense. I mean, everything that Cleveland had to do wrong to keep Portland in that game, they did it. I mean, Arvell threw a horrible pick. I think it was in the second or third quarter. Jumping over a camera cable, which was amazing athletically, but then he should have known better than to throw that. That should have been 10 rows deep in the stands. He was already like 10, 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Just all around, Cleveland struggled. It was really they shouldn't have been in that game. They didn't get the ball. Their playmaker, Colin Taylor, should have got the ball way more than he did. Cleveland's just got to... I really like Arvell Nelson. I think that he can be a good quarterback in this league, but you got to be able to beat up on teams like Portland. I mean, like I said last week, that team's given up, and they allowed that game to go into overtime, which was just wasn't good for Cleveland at all. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, Todd. And the bad thing for Cleveland is 7 of their next 8 games on the road, because they had to front load all these games at home because of the I think it was one of the public or the politics, either RNC or the DNCs there in Cleveland. So that's bad for Cleveland. I mean, they're going to be playing a lot of away games starting on Monday night against Tampa. Cleveland's got Tampa, and then Portland has to go and travel and play Jacksonville. But that was a great game. That was definitely more of futility-wise. It was why it was good, but it was definitely exciting. That game went. I think it took till 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter before that game was over, or in the overtime. So if you watch that game, you stayed up for that, then you caught a very good game. That's it for the recaps. Let's take a quick look at the standings going into next week. Right here. Obviously, Orlando stays undefeated. Arizona, on the other hand, lost 2 in a row. Still 2.5 games up on LA since they hold a tiebreaker. That's a big game in that conference. I think if anyone has a chance in that conference, obviously it's LA. On the other side, Orlando Philly, such a massive game. That could really go a long way into deciding who wins that side of the American Conference. Sharks are struggling, of course. This is the statement game for Sharks this week. I mean, if they lose again this week, especially against Portland, or struggle, they don't come out and smack Portland around, then I think we could pretty much put a fork in their championship hopes. I know that everyone makes the playoffs and anything could happen. I get that, but at what point can you just say, okay, Jacksonville's not going to figure it out this year? They had already figured it out by this time last year. They had started 0-4, I believe, and then they were playing well after that. But to lose to Cleveland, a team that barely beat Portland, Jacksonville's struggling. They need 100% to blow out Portland this week. But there you go. There's the standings going into next week. All right. Next. Yeah, the Univision ratings aren't very good. But then again, they didn't have a long time to really hype it up like they have in the past. Let's see here. Yeah, so they didn't really have time to hype that game up or hype the whole Arena Football League playing on Univision for weeks. I mean, they just came out like on a Friday and said, "Hey, Univision's going to be playing games on Monday night." So I think that's why the ratings are so poor. I think they're going to improve. I hope they're going to improve because the commissioners talk about putting teams in Mexico next year. That's not going to happen if there's no interest down there. I think there is a lot of interest down in Mexico, but the ratings aren't quite showing it yet. And like I said, I think that's just from not being able to hype it up. I mean, when they just throw the games out there, then it's going to it takes time to get people to say, "Hey, well, there's games on Univision, all right." So, and as far as the U.S. viewership, those games are late on a Monday night. I think until school's over, you're not going to see a whole lot of ratings there. All right, so Players of the Week was just announced probably about an hour before we went on air. So let's go over those real quick. Here we go. We got Under Armour Offensive Player of the Week goes to none other than Dan Rodabaugh. 14-23, 223 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks. The Riddell Defensive Player of the Week goes to Cleveland's Marvin Ross. Yeah, it was Ross. He had the game-securing interception at the end of the game last night. He recorded a game-high 13.5 tackles, 7 pass breakups, and that pick in the end zone. So Marvin Ross is your Riddell Defensive Player of the Week. Your J. Lewis Small Playmaker of the Week goes to a Tampa Bay Storm player. What? Jimmy Gordon of Tampa Bay gets the J. Lewis Small Playmaker of the Week. Put up an Ironman performance, hard-fought loss to the Preds. Second-year veteran recorded 2 sacks on defense and a rushing touchdown. I believe those were number 2 and 3 sacks on the year for Tampa. So maybe that's why they got it, because they're like, hey, you doubled their total or tripled their total in one game. We already talked about the Cutter's Catch of the Week was that amazing one-handed catch by Darius Reynolds that made it on SportsCenter top 10. And then the AFL Highlight of the Week goes to Greg Carr for Orlando. He hauled in 8 passes, 116 yards, found the end zone twice. And the 2004 Rookie of the Year made a 45-yard grab that earned him the Highlight of the Week honors while helping the Preds keep their undefeated season going. So there you go. There's the Week 7 Players of the Week for the Arena Football League. All right. So there we have it. Now into the fun stuff. Let's talk about the power rankings. Shall we? Let's see what people are talking about. Let's see here. Doesn't sound like a good number, but if the Univision channel only gets 5,000 normally during that same window, then that number is great. That's correct, Scott. I mean, it all depends on what they normally get that slot. Obviously, it doesn't look good compared to like the CBS Sports Network numbers and all that, but if they're not pulling many views during that time anyway, then that might actually look good. So, all right, without further ado, the power rankings. So, I did breeze over, saw power rankings listed on Twitter that had put Philadelphia in the number 1 slot. I'm not ready to do that yet. Yes, beating Arizona is impressive. Yes, Orlando struggling against Tampa is kind of worrisome. But Orlando also struggled against Portland, struggled against LA. They just seem to play up and down to their competition. They come out and play great against teams like Arizona. They beat them. They went on the road, beat Jacksonville late in that game. So I keep Orlando number one right off the bat. Orlando stays number one for me. There was a rivalry game against Tampa. They were coming off a hard-fought win, and Tampa just played lights out. Jason Bolt is returning. I don't know if Orlando had known that, so they might have been preparing for Jonathan Bain, and they show up and holy shit, here's Jason Bolt is playing. That might have had a part in it too. But I keep Orlando. Plus, it's power rankings. You can't. There's one thing between putting a team a little bit higher that's got one more win, lower in the rankings. But when we're talking about undefeateds, all bets are off. Undefeated team is always number one. Put it that way. This far in the season, that means you're getting everyone's best shot. Orlando's number one. Number two, of course, Philly then moves up to number two. I got them there after beating Arizona and really going on a tear ever since they lost to Jacksonville in, what was that, week 2, week 3? So Philly's number two. Dan Rodabaugh, Darius Reynolds, DR squared, if you will, for Philly. Unstoppable. They are definitely making an argument for being the best quarterback-receiver duo in the league. But I got Philly number two, which, again, can't say it enough. Saturday night's game. If there's only one game that you can watch this week, not only is it the game of the week, but, you got 7-0 Orlando, 6-1 Philly. It's not like Arizona. That game was huge and everything, but with the injuries that they had going all the way across country, this one's both Eastern time zone. Oh, man, Saturday can't come quick enough. The Kisser back on the field. Freaking, this huge game. I can't wait till Saturday night. All right. Number 3, Arizona doesn't fall farther than 3. There's a definitive line here with power rankings, all right, between the teams in the AFL. You got 1, 2, and 3, then there's a line. You got 4, 5, and 6, there's a line, and then 7, 8. There's 3 distinct groups here. So Arizona doesn't fall out of that top-tier group, of course. Why should they? They had only lost, it's 2 losses, but both of them were in the Eastern time zone. Before those 2 games, the only game that they even came close to struggling was that overtime game against Jacksonville, and that was again on the East Coast. Now they go back west to get LA. Arizona they'll be fine. They got Davila, they got Coach Guy. They're in the worst of the 2 conferences. They'll be fine. Arizona's number 3. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. I moved LA up to number 4. Yes, they were on a bye, so you could technically say they didn't earn jumping up, and really they didn't. They didn't do anything, obviously, in a bye week to earn jumping up a spot, but for Cleveland to go into overtime with Portland, they deserved to drop a spot because they were pretty much, like I said last week, they were pretty much neck and neck anyway, so anything other than a blowout win for Cleveland, I was going to move them down, and like I said, they should have lost that game, so they don't deserve to stay in the 4th spot. Kiss move up to number 4. Cleveland drops down to number 5. At some point this year, they need to be able to smack a team around. The week before, LA was coming off of a couple bad games, and that game was over against Portland on Monday. It was last Monday night. That game was over by halftime, and they finished that game with 2 pick sixes in the 4th quarter. So of course that was Darren Thomas, not Shane Austin, but Shane Austin hadn't played all year in the Arena League, so they were both coming on their first game of the year. So Cleveland drops to 5. Jacksonville is 6. Of course, being on a bye. Cleveland doesn't fall farther than that, of course. And without Tampa or Portland winning, they don't jump. So Jacksonville stays at 6. Tampa's at 7, and Portland's at 8. I keep those the same. Some people might say, oh, well, Portland should have won. They should jump them up. But Portland almost winning that game was a testament of Cleveland struggling, not Portland taking advantage of anything. How many times did Cleveland make a commit a bad penalty at the worst time? They had a pick 6 on that final drive, and they got called back on a illegal defense. And then they give up, it was 2 seconds left on the clock, and they give up a jump ball to Tyrone Gord. So that was more Cleveland's ineptitude to not being able to execute in the second half than Portland really going out and playing lights out. Like I said, Shane Austin played well in that first quarter, but really struggled afterwards. Tampa Bay with Boltis, I think is a much better team, and they could really challenge Jacksonville if Jacksonville continues to play like they have. That's why I keep Tampa Bay at 7. I think if Tampa Bay had Boltis all year, they would not be 0 for right now. Portland, I don't know. I don't know if that was a one-time thing or if now with Shane Austin they're going to be competitive. But if they keep getting injuries like this, they're not going to be competitive for very long. And I really think they're going to go to Jacksonville so we can get smacked around anyway and stay number 8. But Tampa's got a chance to move up. If Tampa beats Cleveland, it's going to be interesting. They'll still have Cleveland will still have 2 wins on them, but I mean, you can make the argument there that Tampa might be trending up while Cleveland's trending down. But there's my power rankings. Quick snapshot. Got Orlando, Philly, Arizona, LA, Cleveland, Jacksonville, Tampa, and Portland. Let's see what people got here. Yeah, baby. Unchanged for me. Rankings, Portland still 8. Tampa's only allowing a tad under game. And well-punished Cleveland. Yeah, I mean, Cleveland doesn't deserve to be any higher. That really kind of upset me. I'm kind of a Cleveland fan, being the only Midwestern team in the league. I thought they'd go out there and just smack Portland around last night, and it ended up being. Granted, it was a fun game, but come on, Cleveland, you're better than that. Come on. But that pretty much wraps up the week. I'm thinking there was something else, but I can't remember. But unless you guys got anything else, we're approaching that half an hour. We're a little over. So, like I said, I won't be here next week, more than likely, unless I'm able to get all set up after we get back from our little mini vacation. But great week, week 7. Excited for week 8. You got to watch that Saturday night game. I think all 3 Saturday games are going to be interesting. Even the Portland-Jacksonville game, because Jacksonville's not exactly lighting it up. And the last time Portland went to Florida was the Orlando game, and that they had to lead within a minute. So you can't count Portland out completely, but I think Jacksonville at some point's got to pick it up with that kind of talent they have on offense. So that one should be interesting. LA, Arizona should be interesting. LA coming off of rest, having their bye week. Arizona with the injuries that they have. How's that game going to go? We'll see. And then, of course, Orlando, Philly is just going to be a monster of a game. Oh, that game's going to be fun. I can't wait for that one. And then Monday night with Cleveland and Tampa. A little secret, I'm picking Tampa. I think Tampa's going to win Monday night. Letting the cat out of the bag early. So, yeah, I think as long as Boltis plays, obviously, I don't know if that was another one of like he did earlier where he come back for one game because it was Orlando and then he was going to go back. I'm not sure. If he plays, I got Tampa winning on Monday night. Sharks to blow out Portland, Philly to take down Orlando. Yeah, I definitely can't give you my pick for that one. That one you're going to have to wait till Friday for the game of the week preview to get who I think is going to win the Orlando-Philly game. But either way, that's it. Enjoy the week. And, yeah, enjoy Saturday night. If you got multiple TVs, I'll be having... I won't have mine going because they'll be packed up. But I'll definitely be watching all the games. So make sure that you subscribe here. That way you're good to go on YouTube. You follow us on Twitter, Facebook. Join the conversation. I want to try to get some kind of chat going like Arena Fans got. I'm not sure exactly how I want to get that going, but just get the conversation going with everybody during the games would be awesome. Kind of supplement this a little bit. Have everyone talking on Saturday. We'll figure that out. Maybe do some kind of Facebook chat or something like that. Try to get something going. But that's it. I will see you guys on Friday. AFL Fan Zone Game of the Week, of course, like I've said a million times. Orlando at Philly. And, yeah, check me on Friday. And you guys have a good week. Take it easy.